Welcome to Insight Club. Today we are talking about desire as the antidote for victim feeling and energy. Stay tuned. The first rule of Insight Club is you don't talk about Insight Club. You do Insight Club. The second rule of Insight Club is the only assumptions we make about one another are that we all want happiness and we all want to avoid suffering. The third rule of Insight Club is you check all your other assumptions at the door. We hope these conversations will bring you insights that incite you to action. Welcome to Insight Club.
Welcome back. So Megan, tell me more about this desire as the antidote to victim energy. What Megan suggested this theme and I was like, I'm intrigued. So let's discover together.
Yeah. Well, okay, so you introduced me to the Gene Keys a couple years back. And I didn't feel called to go deeper. Like what you sent me about my Gene Keys, I was like, this just is exactly me. It makes so much sense. But I never felt this feeling of like, I want to go deeper into it until a couple months back. And this opportunity popped up on my radar to join like a group that's working on the Gene Keys. So we work on our own Gene Keys and we're going through the sequence. And I don't know a whole lot about them, so I'm probably not going to get all the names right. But we started with life's work and then moved into your evolution sphere. And now we're in the radiant sphere, which is where you get a breakthrough. And of course, you know, what comes before a breakthrough, but like chaos and breakdown and everything. So I was reading my my Gene Key for the breakthrough radiance, and it is like crazy. It is number 55, which is basically about like the whole planet's evolution. And it is like, oh my gosh. I mean, it took me a while to read through it because there's just so much going on there. But every Gene Key, as you know, has the shadow and then a gift and then a divine gift, a city. And for this one, the shadow is victimization. And the gift and the divine gift, the city, are both freedom. So I'm reading about this and I'm just like, crap. Yes, everything I was talking about with victimization was like, this is what I've been experiencing very actively for like the last 6 months, probably. And these two expressions of victimization, shame and blame, right? So when I'm in victim energy, if I internalize it, I'm shaming myself. Oh, how come I don't know how to do this? I should be farther along. How come I'm just so rubbish at everything? Or blame, right? Like, how could I possibly be productive when my husband left his dirty socks in the living room, right? It's like,
yeah,
little things and or big things, right? Like, how can I possibly how can I possibly do anything when, you know, it's so like there's inflation and it's so expensive just to buy groceries, right? Like all these things. So that was the first part of it. Like just an acknowledgement of, oh, this low feeling I'm feeling and this kind of lack of movement forward. This is victim energy. So that was a first breakthrough. Just like, oh yeah, I recognize. And then I had two things. The first was I took a trip to see my good friend who's just had a little baby. So I was kind of like extra auntie and taking care of the baby and helping with the older kids. And it reminded me of how much energy I can actually have in a day. Like each day I was there, I was up early, I was caring for kiddos and doing craft projects and visiting with my friend. And we did a lot. I had long days. I was like, wow, I really have the possibility of getting a lot more done when I versus, you know, I was comparing it with how I feel when I'm starting my workday in my business. I'm like, I don't know what to do. So that was the like kind of this clue to, oh, I have more power, but I'm not sure why. And then doing a guided meditation about the Gene Keys and about the breakthrough it was really interesting the way she led this, where you walk through the portal and get to like your gift. So I'm like there in freedom. And then you look back and you go, what was it that allowed me to go through the portal and to make the breakthrough? And in
Mm.
that meditative state, it was so obvious to me, it was desire and acting on my desires. And then I connected that with my trip to my friend, where it wasn't like my burning desires necessarily I was acting on, but it was kind of this collective desire, right? I don't like desire in the sense you don't question it, right? There's a baby to take care of. You don't question it. There are kids who need stories. There are beautiful fall afternoons to take walks. Like when it's so obvious to do things when we just have that desire and want to do them. And
Yeah.
what I noticed is like, okay, it catapulted me completely out of this victim energy that I've been slogging through for so long. And so then the challenge is like, okay, now I've experienced it being part of like a collective desire. Now, how do I translate that to, my own unique desires and what I want to do?
Mm. I I'm hearing this a little bit different, and it
Okay.
might be okay. So what I'm feeling is what you're calling desire. I feel like more like a need. Like have a
Mm.
sense of the need, what's needed in the moment, because like a
Mm.
child that needs to be taken care of. It's not like I desire to take care of that kid. Like I know that it's a need and I'm gonna do it. I'm not
Yeah.
even questioning if that do I do it? But no, I'm doing it, right?
Mm.
So it kind of and it's not a bad thing that it's a need, because when we think of like we are given what we need in the moment that we need and not what we want, like that there's so many I have so many songs for this in my mind right now.
Starting with the Rolling Stones.
Starting with the Rolling Stones, you can't always get what you want, but you get what you need. You too has like what you don't get, you don't need it now. Uh, so like yeah, if you don't get it now, it's you don't need it. And Trevor Hall has like I have everything I need. I have everything I need. I have everything I need. Mhm. So basically, I feel like this is a fundamental law. Uh, we get what we need, and everything is always served as it's needed. Um, so, and this is something that it's not like, oh, so I need to be waiting for what I need, but can I be more clear on what I need and really tell the universe, like, it's not like a want, this is what I need. This is exactly what I need. And needs are not like, oh, but I need to be uh, very, like, I can't ask for more. You can ask for whatever you feel
Mm.
like you need, right? So there was a practice that helped me a lot to get clear on that, because I was often like discounting, feeling like, oh, I don't need all these. I don't need all of these. I can go with less. I can settle with less. I don't want to be like asking for too much, and then I always get less than I need, or that I thought I needed. Um, and I started doing this because a coach told me, like, putting everything that I wanted and needed in a spreadsheet, and why I needed this, and if I felt like I deserved this or I don't, and how much it is. And when I put it all like this, I was like, oh yeah, I do need more to cover all the things that I want to create and that I am creating in here. And it gave me the feeling like this is totally possible, and this is not asking too much because I'm clear now on what I need.
Yeah. The bringing in the idea of needs is helpful to me because the what it highlights is when I have absolute, like, of course this is for me feeling, whether I call that a need or a desire, the most amazing gifts fall into my lap I had an astrologer tell me, like, when he looked at me kind of quizzically, and he's like, when you really want something, you get it. And I said, that's true. That's definitely
Yeah.
true.
I,
About
I've seen this with you as well, and I've seen this with me as well. I feel like the hardest thing is actually us admitting to ourselves what we want,
and
admitting our desires, like you were saying.
yeah, and the clarity around it. So, I guess what, yeah, like was so, and it's helpful again about the need and the desire. But with a baby, it's so obvious what needs to be done. That was the part that was energizing. As you said, it's a need, and nobody's like, baby, are you sure you want a diaper change? You just had a diaper change. It's like you don't say that. So, and also, I magically got out of all diaper changing duty. I just had feeding and snuggling duty. But um that's what was so appealing to me. There's such clarity, but also combined with the personality of the friend I was visiting. She My perception, it might feel different for her, but my perception is that she's very clear on what she wants to. So even things that weren't like it has to happen, it was like, let's do this. I'm like, yes, let's do that, because your desire and your clarity, it feels so comfortable to me compared with like the swamp of confusion it feels like I'm in, which is the victimization, or the victim. So it was more than just like the obvious things that are necessary. It was also just being in that space of like, oh yes, we want this, let's do this, we want this, let's do this. And I was like, that's so refreshing. So whether I call it a need or a desire, um the clarity is really what is the magic. And I've had those moments where I'm just like, I'm almost a little snarky with universal source, with God. I'm like I'm a little bratty with God, where I'm like, I want this thing. Uh, but that's the energy of like total clarity. I'm not going, I want this thing, but maybe I don't deserve it. Or I want this thing, but how do I get it? I'm just like, God, I should have this. And that's when things tend to come into my life. And the I would say the greatest challenge I have to receiving what I want is that the wanting is wobbly. And yes, there is that thing you were saying too, the questioning, like, do I really need that? There are people who don't have clean water, and I'm like, but I really want to set up a coffee station in my kitchen, and so I need this little cart from Amazon. It's like,
And even like the, oh, but I should be happy because I have a roof over my head.
yeah.
Like right now, if you notice the difference in background, we are in the renovation here, and my room is empty. My bedroom is completely empty. I have a bed in there. That's the only thing that's there. And I could think like, but I have a roof over my head. Yeah, but I want my room back. I need my room back. And
Yeah.
it's not asking too much.
It's
And I
it's
know
not.
that's,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think the other piece of this is a great segue to, because the other piece of this, you were talking about not having time, space, aloneness to be able to do your practices right now.
Yeah.
And that is such a huge need. And that's something I was really conscious of when I took this trip. And I every morning did my kriyas, and every night did my meditation. And that felt really, really amazing. Whereas like I'm just setting this boundary where I'm not going to be available until I've done the things that I know feed me. And then, of course, during the day I had so much more energy and was so much more available because I'm doing these things that I need. But the the needs are not just about the things. The needs are like, well, what what's actually required for me to be firstly functional, and then like contributing.
Yeah.
um
And that's also needs clarity. Sometimes the lack make, like you mentioned, the my lack of privacy.
Yeah.
This is one thing that I always feel like these situations teach us something. I learned that okay, I can't care about like there's people around that might think I'm crazy because I'm doing my kriyas. Otherwise,
Mm.
I'm not gonna do them. So
Yeah.
I don't have the privacy, but I still can do my kriyas.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is one of the things. But when we lack something, it gets really clear what we need. The contrast helps us see what's very clear what we need. So when we're not having clarity, it might be that and I feel that for me, we let it sleep like that's not very important. That's not that important. That's not for too long. And then we lose the sense of what's really important for us. But when you like what happened for me now that I had this and then suddenly I don't, I always had my time alone, and then suddenly there's no time alone.
Yeah.
Um, it gets very clear, like, oh yeah, this is something that I'm not gonna let happen again. I do need this. I do need that, and so on.
Yeah. That's where I wish I went, but what I often find myself doing is going straight from the this is not working to the victim energy.
Mm,
Right? And, like, "Oh, I don't have the time I need to," there's an awareness of, like, I'm making the connection. I don't feel my best because 'cause I'm not doing the things, like, I'm not exercising or I'm not getting good sleep. But the, I feel like there's this kind of fork there, and one fork is toward, "Oh, so, okay, then my needs and my desires are more sleep or more time, and, how do I make that happen?" And the other fork is like, "Look at all these, look at all these people stealing my energy and asking me to do things." And for me, there's this well-worn path into victim energy that is also codependent.
mm,
It because ultimately it feels good in a way, and it's serving me in a way to feel like I'm so sacrificed, I can't get what I need and want because I'm doing this for other people. It it makes me feel important in a negative way, it's the shadow side of importance. Um, it it also frees me from the responsibility of working on my dreams and the things I really wanna get done, which is scary. It's not scary to work on somebody else's dreams because if they don't work out, it's okay, it wasn't my dream.
yeah.
So, there's this pull toward, like, when I'm in lack, I often move more toward lack into victim mode, into overgiving mode, and then get that, "See, everybody takes all my time and energy because I give it to them."
That's very interesting because that's basically that confirmation bias as well, right?
Yeah,
We 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 seek for things that confirm the view of the world that we have already. So that's what we get over and over. And since time, we touched on that on the other episode, like time is actually a sequence of experiences, but it's not there. There's only now.
yeah,
We are only in the now. But if we are repeating the same thing in the now over and over again, of course, we're going to be recreating more of the same when all that needs is one change of thought and like, oh, okay, I recognize a pattern here. I'm not doing this again
yeah.
because I'm choosing different from now on.
Yeah. I had a
Yeah.
really beautiful moment this morning. I woke up and it's gray outside. The sun's out now, but it was just, kind of like a day. And I was feeling grumpy and I was feeding into the grumpiness. I was feeding into the grumpiness and like, oh yeah, this is why I'm feeling grumpy and this and this. And I came into my office to do my kriyas and I was like, oh, this is victim energy. Like I recognized it. And so I just lit some Palo Santo and I like to smudge myself and say, especially in the mornings, but it's nice
Mm.
for these kind of times too. I wipe away sleep and all unconscious thought. And if I'm not in a funk, the unconscious thought is just part of sleep, right? Like I'm waking myself up. But for this, it was really like I'm wiping away sleep and all unconscious thought. And I was so excited because I went, I recognized it. I saw the victim energy and I chose something different. And then, did my morning routines and felt much better. And maybe that's why the sun came out. I'm still not wholly convinced that that the weather isn't just a reflection of my internal moods.
It can be. Yeah.
I
Tell
know
me
it
more.
sounds I know it sounds goofy, but it's one of those things that I don't believe in a wholehearted way, but it's like, oh, that's kind of fun to entertain this as a belief. Do you know what I mean? I'm not convinced of it. I wouldn't ever try to argue it with somebody. I understand that, weather is based on all kinds of
Well,
natural stuff.
it might be a combination of the mood of most people in that
Ah,
place.
there you go, our collective
Um,
unconscious.
yeah, collective unconscious. It
Um,
was supposed to be raining this week in here, and there's plenty of sunshine.
yeah. But like in a play, well, at least in like a kind of classic play, like in Shakespeare, it's always this the storm outside reflects
Yeah,
the inner turmoil. And maybe it's just more useful as a way of noticing, right? It's like, oh, when I notice the sun is coming out, that's me becoming aware of my mood changing or my opportunity to change my mood. Um, yeah. So I think you're right that like it's sometimes it's the need, not a desire, and it's really the clarity. And what I want to cultivate is wanting things in a really clean way. Without that, do I deserve this, or can I have this, or is this too big, and is this even possible? Um, that just feels like it's going to be a really useful practice.
yeah.
And jolt me out of the victim energy.
And in the cultivating as well, I'm thinking linking the desire to the need, like you were talking about. And what if we cultivate the idea that what we desire is a need?
Mm. Tell me why that feels powerful for you.
Because we often dismiss our desires, especially those like you and me who are always like wanting to help others and so on. We often feel like, oh yeah, that other person need is more important than mine.
Yeah.
Like I desire this, but like it's not like I need this. And in my radiance I have like in the it's the 12, so the lower frequency is vanity, the regular one is discrimination. I was just checking again to be sure of all the things. And the city is purity. So I can easily feel like, oh no, but I'm being vain in wanting this desire. I'm being vain um, in wanting things to be my way and so on. When if I go into the higher expression of this desire and I can discriminate what's good for me and what I really need, what I don't, and so on, I can actually get to the essence of it, the purity, and see what is that is coming from within my heart, and it's not just a vain desire. It's a desire that is serving my evolution.
Yeah. Yeah. I I did some journaling around freedom because it's such a big word, but it's so big it kind of doesn't mean anything because it means everything.
Mhm.
And thinking about like moving into that gift, and then the city is the same word. And there was a direct correlation looking at so the woman who's running the Gene Keys group sent some prompts, and answering things like, where in my home or my work do I not feel free, and where, and the things that came up were directly correlated to where I'm not following a clear desire. So maybe I know what my desire is and I'm following something different because of it's just a default pattern, or I'm not sure. Like I've followed that path so much, I don't know. It's hard to step out of it. It's like a tire going in a rut. Um, and then some places where I'm not feeling free because I don't even know what my desire is there. Like
Mm.
I'm not moving toward something my heart is calling for. And some of this has to do with presence. We talked last time about truly resting versus kind of numbing, or looking like you're resting but really being busy. I've had this conversation with my sister before, and it's like, this is such a funny thing to say, but we've both experienced that, like, oh, I'm really proud of myself because I was able to just watch the movie, not watch the movie and also be on my phone.
Mm.
It just sounds, it's so goofy, right? Like, this is where we are in our modern world. Like, I'm still watching the screen, right? So the aliens might be like, it just looks the same, but the feeling is either, oh, I am committing to relaxing, to following along with this story I'm watching, versus what else is going on here? And do I need to take care of that? And is there an email, or is there something more interesting over here?
Yeah.
And
It's the difference between, yeah, the committing that you mentioned and also the presence, and that fear of missing on something, fear of like, but the, just being that constant seeking for something
yes.
better.
Yes, the constant seeking, and just out of pure habit a lot of the time. So I now I don't remember what brought this on, but I just had one of those, kind of epiphany moments the other day where you're just like, "Oh my gosh, this." And I just yelled across the house. I said, "Grady, the most important asset we have is our focus. That's what we have to hold on to. That's what we have to protect. It's our focus." And he he's like, "Okay." I don't know where that came from, but that's what, like, if I want to live a life of meaning, it feels like that's my number one goal, is protect my focus.
I love that you brought that up because a friend of mine told this a while ago, like the most important currency of this age was attention, which is
Yeah.
basically what you're saying as well. And if you think about it, that's exactly what social media and the like advertisement, TV, all of this stuff is constantly trying to take out of us.
Yeah.
Not just the attention, so that like, look at this, look at that, look at that. Uh, this is the answer. The answer is there, is there, there, all of this stuff. But also our ability to even get like to stay present and look where it, things are actually are. Look within. Look
Yeah.
at like be more present for longer than 9 seconds with something or someone. Be
Yeah.
able to meditate, like where you're talking at as well, like to have those moments where we actually meet with something higher and are able to connect with something higher. And it's funny how language can create like be like stolen as well. Like when we
Mhm.
talk about internet and all these things, we are connected, right?
Yeah.
But and we use the same term, like being connected to spirit, connected to something higher, connected.
Yeah.
So how much we are disconnecting from that and losing ourselves in connecting with
Yeah.
technology.
Which network are we strengthening?
Yeah.
Have you ever read the short story? I'm pretty sure it's by Kurt Vonnegut. Harrison Bergeron may or may not be the title of it, but that's the main character. And the premise is that um, we're shooting for equality, not equal opportunity, but equality. So there's the brilliant ballet dancer, and she has to wear heavy weights because if she dances more brilliantly than somebody else, they'll feel inadequate. So it's like this, taking to the extreme the idea that you can't make somebody feel bad by shining, right? But one of the people, so there's an organization, there's the handicapper general whose job it is to assign like things like the weights for the ballerina, and somebody who can think really deeply has his what he's assigned is like terrible music or sirens or something that just blurt into his thoughts every 20 seconds or so he can't sustain deep thinking.
Distraction.
And yeah, that's we've done it to ourselves. uh
With a lot of distraction, and then you don't have to, you can access those deep thinking, deep meaning, deep
yeah,
creation spaces that is a, are available for us.
yeah, that was what put me into victim energy the most this week was
Mm.
um being in a situation where uh, I felt it was an emergency. And so it was like all these emails coming in. It's like this has to take care of it. And like on a Monday, on a day when my intention is I'm doing my deep thinking, I'm tuning
Yeah.
into myself, I'm asking what do I want to have happen. And
Same thing. Go ahead.
yeah, but just so interesting to notice how I allowed the energy to go down, like farther and farther and farther and farther down. And what finally created some sanity was just going on a walk.
Mm.
And it's like, Grady, will you go on a walk with me and let me talk this through and let me figure out? And he just listened and held space, and just being outside and moving was helpful. But that for me is where like there's what I want to do, but I have to do what somebody else is asking me to do. But do I really? Like, what if I followed my desires in that moment and said, like, I'm actually not available today?
Yeah, same thing. Same thing for me. It is the not being able to like have that space and to be called multiple times everywhere. And actually, for a long time, I kept a boundary. The difference is for me, instead of going into victim mentality, I get angry.
Mm,
And it's not that you can feel like a victim and still be angry, but like
sure.
I get angry, and then I'm like, okay, I can either discount this on someone or just vent, or I can move my body,
Yeah.
or I can yeah, just implode. So moving the body is always the best option.
Yes. That sounds like a
um
good option.
yeah, and the thing is, th- there might be, if anyone watching this will feel like there might be moments where there's a baby who needs more than whatever we need. For example, like it might be that there's something that, yeah, you can say like, no, I'm not available, but then you're gonna have to deal with something else later, which
Yeah.
was my case. If in some things, like if I wasn't available there, then things that I wanted to be finished wouldn't be finished, or would be done anyway, but not the way I wanted. So
Yes.
I got the choice to like, I can deal with this now, or I can deal with whatever happens if I'm not available now.
Right.
Um, but still, it's like, okay, I'm gonna choose. And this is the difference between being a victim and like, if I'm choosing to deal with this, I'm not a victim of it. I'm choosing to take action. Or I can feel like, see, I have to do this. No.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's the attitude we bring towards that.
That makes perfect sense. And then it feels powerful too to choose like which neural pathway I'm strengthening. Like this morning having that very like, oh, it was even exciting. I was like, oh wait, this is what victim energy is. Oh, I spotted one. It's like being a bird watcher or something. And so the more I choose and choose powerfully, the stronger I can make that connection. So it becomes the default as opposed to, yeah, I mean, I really, obviously, I get something out of being in the victim energy because I keep choosing it.
Yeah.
Part of it though, that, like part of what I've come to realize and just make peace with, and I tend to say this to myself, like before I start addiction meditation, but a lot of the time it's just like, I do this because I've done it so many times before. You know, people are talk all the time about like, let go of what's not serving you. And so if you're still doing it, serving you in some way. And yeah, there's definitely truth to that. Like when I'm in victim mode and when I'm blaming other people, I that protects me from shaming myself, you know? So if I'm moving up the energetic scale, yes, there's something I'm getting. But part of it is I'm doing it because I've done it so many times before. It's simply etched into my thought patterns and my feeling patterns. And I have the power to change that. And that knowing, I don't know, there's something really freeing about that knowing instead of like, oh, I gotta find the deep down answer. Why is this serving me? Why am I doing it? What's the origin story? Just like, oh, I've just done it a lot of times. And I probably did it a lot between the ages of 0 and 7 when, when those things were being formed. Like,
And,
okay.
and also recognizing that, okay, I recognize this now. Why would I indulge on continuing the pattern if I'm like, oh, got it now. I know the feathers and the singing of my victim.
That's a blue-tailed victim bird. That's a spotted blame bobbit. Yeah. And it's like the recognizing that becomes the moment, and it's neat to practice these moments. So I've chosen intentionally not to have human children. I have kitties, and my cats, and I think animals generally are a good way to practice that like, how do I want to respond to this, right? So the scenario is I'm doing something in the kitchen. My cat really wants to be fed. I know I'm going to feed him, but it's like, first, I'm going to wash these vegetables or whatever it is. I'm like, I'm going to take care of this first. And I can choose to be with that in an energy of like, why don't you shut up, annoying cat? I'm going to feed you. I've never not fed you, you know.
There's a bug in here.
Oh no. But I like, so I feel that rising up in me, that the frustration and like the annoyance, like it's such an annoying sound when a cat's meowing. I feel that rise up, and then I use that as an opportunity to practice going in my like kindest cat mom voice. Oh, I hear you. Oh, you are hungry. Yes, let's get you some food. And I keep doing what I'm doing. But that choice, like I love that as practice ground for choosing the attitude. And choosing like, oh yeah, I'm hearing a sound, it's unpleasant. And I get to choose how to react, and what to do in the situation, and even like move more, like give him extra love, go more in the direction of like, oh, you're having a need and it feels unmet, and you're feeling hungry and you're worried because you don't have opposable thumbs to open the can yourself. But those practice moments feel really wonderful, where you are seeing, as you said, like, oh, okay, that's that. I see that that path leads towards unhappiness. Why
Mm.
would I choose it?
Yeah.
Hmm.
That those are great points actually. And the practice, like that's another layer. You mentioned the shame. When you see this everything as a practice, when you recognize like this is not how I want to act on this is not the way I want to be taking this, instead of shaming ourselves, we can actually see like this is a learning point. I
Yeah.
don't have to do this again on the next one. Now I know.
Yeah. In my membership yesterday, on my membership call yesterday for my Write Your Light collective, uh, I asked people to share wins, and somebody shared a win, and shared actual wins, and then afterwards said like, I feel like it should be farther along, but I'm glad I'm here. And I said, I'm so glad you said that. I totally relate to that feeling. And what I know is that not for everybody in the world, but for like definitely this group who was gathered, for me, for the people who tend to come into my world, um, loving ourselves into the next evolution is far more effective than shooting ourselves or beating ourselves up. Like it's simply the most practical path. Um, like when we have that, when you have the evidence, you're like, oh, you know, I can see the difference it makes when I make these choices or when I take time for myself or when I fulfill my needs. I can see my progress. Oh, I noticed. Like, oh, I noticed that this was happening.
We
And I
can,
had choice. That that's what we grow from.
yeah, yeah. We can only force ourselves for so long until it's like unsustainable. That's what leads to burnout, which I'm familiar with.
Hmm.
uh, if we get on those flow states and flow streams, then we can do a lot. It's going back to what we talked in the last episode, the recognizing when we need to rest, what we need. And it might not be rest, it might be, like I said, like I need to move my body.
Yeah.
Um, whatever it is that we feel like, yeah, this is what my vehicle is asking me right now, is also a
Oh,
way of moving faster. Like we can't run out of gas. We can't leave the car without like these are needs as well. Like you take care of your car. Why wouldn't we take care of our vehicle?
yeah. Yeah. You just connected some things in my brain where I thought a really fun practice would be to be with my needs the way I'm practicing being with my cat.
Mm,
Right? So, like, when the need arises to really acknowledge it, like, "Oh, are you feeling tired? Are you feeling this? Okay, let's get you," to make a little bit of a big deal out of it. The goal there being to really show, "I hear you. I hear your need."
yeah.
And looking for that need, learning to recognize, like, my cat, it's very obvious. He comes in the kitchen and he meows. But with me, maybe it's like when I start going into anger, when I start going toward feeling like a victim, or when I start this, that's when there's a need. And what I think that's a practice I want to do for this coming week is looking for the need beneath the meow.
Ah, I love it. Yes.
Yeah. What's your big insight? And what insight do you wanna take on?
Hmm. I feel like my biggest insight was right in the beginning when we were talking about the desire. I felt like, those are needs. So for me, it's like recognizing. this is the practice that I want to get more into, like recognizing my desires as needs instead of discounting them.
Beautiful. So we're both in a attending to our needs kind of space.
Yeah.
So for anybody watching, the invitation is open. Do you want to take on one of these? Recognizing your desires as needs, or attending to your needs as if they were the needs of somebody who couldn't take care of themselves, like a cat or a baby. And, you know, how much of a jerk would you feel like if you got pissy with a baby or a cat or a dog, right? Like, why do you need to be fed all the time?
Yeah, you wouldn't tell a baby who needs to change their diapers that, oh, it's just a desire, let them
you just want that. You just think you want that. You don't really need that. Yeah. Yeah. And an honoring there too of the little person inside of us, right? Because that does happen so often in our times of being little, that we ingrain like a feeling of fear around our needs not being met. And then that translates to thinking our desires won't be met, and, you know, squishing our dreams because we go, well, I've just been, you know, I've learned that what I want or what I need isn't important or doesn't matter. And honoring that little one. I see your desires, and those are needs, and you deserve to have them.
And going back to that Rolling Stone song, since we brought that up, you can't always get what you want, but if you try, sometimes you just might find you get what you need. That's a pretty deep chain, a deep differentiation here. It's not like you can't always get what you want and feel like, oh yeah, can't always get what I want, so it's okay. No, it says like, but if you try sometimes. So just because we're not gonna get exactly what we want every time doesn't mean that we shouldn't be trying. Doesn't mean that we should stop us from having our desires. It means like, try it anyway and get clear on what is the need in the desire, and then you get what you need. It might be that it's not exactly what you thought you wanted, but it might be even better.
Yeah, it's the thing you need in the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. Well, I got my homework. I got my assignment. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. Clarity and coming back to the needs in the desires.
Yeah, it's so lovely to talk with you this way. It feels like a beautiful brainstorming session. getting to the deeper root of things. Yeah. So for anybody watching, listening, we'd love to hear what's resonating with you, what insights are coming. How are you relating to your needs and desires, and to all the stuff we talked about today?
Yeah. Till the next episode.
See you next time. What you need. Take care. The first rule of Insight Club is you don't talk about Insight Club. You do Insight Club. The second rule of Insight Club is the only assumptions we make about one another are that we all want happiness and we all want to avoid suffering. The third rule of Insight Club is you check all your other assumptions at the door. We hope these conversations will bring you insights that incite you to action. Welcome to Insight Club.